Okay. So can everybody see my screen? If you can see my screen, say yes in the chat. If you cannot, say no. All right, very good. So everybody can see the screen. So now let's start. So today we'll be doing a unit review of absolute, well, not absolute value. Absolute value will be included, but a unit review of unit 3, which is inequalities. All right, so you'll be working with inequalities, and we'll go over all of the lessons in unit 3 today. And last homework, about 9 or 10 of you turned in the homework, which is not enough. So for those people who have not turned in the absolute value homework, make sure you turn it in. And also for those who have turned it in, hopefully I'll be grading it very soon. I'm also kind of busy this weekend, so sorry that I'm late on grading that, but I'll do it as soon as I can. All right, so this is our schedule for today. Since we had 4 lessons on in unit 3, so we'll be doing 4 review today, and of course we'll start with homework questions and end with practice problems. Your homework for today will also be 5 problems. Okay, and since today is just review, it's a review class, right? So instead of me teaching everything, I want everybody to interact more, right? So I want everybody to participate. All right, so let's go over some homework questions. All right, so everybody put these in the chat. So for those who did the homework, or everybody just put your homework answers in the chat for this one, number 1, all right? And also denote in the interval notation. Okay. All right, if you have some answers. Oh, was 2 no solution? Your mom told you to get rid of the negative sign, and you redid it. Oh yes, 2 was supposed to be no solution. I specifically made it no solution. All right, because we talk about those 4 cases, right? So no solution, all real solution, case 1, case 2, right? So I purposely made it no solution. But if you got rid of the negative sign, that's okay too. But I just wanted you to, get used to the no solution and the all real solution. And in today's homework, just a heads up, there will be another one of those inequalities with all real solutions or all a no solution, right? So case 3 or case 4. So there will be a homework question like that. So if it's like, looks weird, right? With the no solution, then if it's no solution, then I probably intended it to be no solution, right? So keep it that way. All right, so let's see. Negative infinity to negative 16, very good. Right, so most people got that. I haven't checked the homework yet, but I'm gonna assume that is correct. All right, so let's see who can help us with this. Who can do this? All right, so let's see. Everybody to participate. So let's see, Kaylee. You gave us, I think, the correct answer. So can you walk us through how to do this problem, if you could?
So first, you subtract 4 from both sides.
All right, very good, very good. Okay, so this is 8, and then
you multiply both sides by 2.
Okay, very good. So then you're left with absolute value of x is greater than 16. All right, so then we have to remove the absolute value sign, right? So how do we do that?
And so that would be case 2, yeah, I think that would be case 2, and so it would be an or sign. So it would also equal x is less than negative 6.
You mean negative 16?
Oh, yeah, sorry, negative 16. Or x is greater than 16.
Very good. Very good. So she's correct, right? Our case 2 here. When the absolute value of x is greater than something, you see this greater sign? When the absolute value of x is greater than something, then it's an or, right? It's an or. That's case 2 that we talked about. All right, so now that we have we turn it into an or inequality, we're going to have x is greater than 16 or x is less than negative 16. All right. So now if we denote this into interval notation, so let's see who else can help us here. All right. So William, how about William? All right. Well, very good, William. Okay, so can you tell us the interval notation of this problem?
So the interval notation is negative infinity, comma, negative 16 in regular parentheses, union 16, comma, infinity in regular parentheses.
Very good. Very good. So, very good, you two. You understand the topic very well. It's good. And so now let's draw our graph, right? So our graph, we have remember the or is a compound inequality. And remember when we have an or inequality, it's going to be branching out, right? The graph is going to be branching out. So we have 16 here, we have negative 16 here. So let's say this is 0. Okay, so we're going to have it branching out. So from 16, right, we're going to have an open circle since it's not included. It's going to be branching out like that, right? Okay, so, and from the graph, we can actually verify if this is true, right? If the absolute value of x is greater than 16. So if you take any number greater than 16, let's say 17, right? The absolute value of 17 is greater than 16. And if you take any number less than negative 16, the absolute value of that, let's say negative 19, and take the absolute value of that, then it has to be greater than 16, right? Because it makes it gets rid of the negative sign, right? So that's how we get this, and you can kind of see from the graph here. All right, so our second one. So everybody just post your answers in the chat, see what we got. All right, so we have a couple answers. We have no solution and no solution. Very good, very good. So it's great. It is no solution, right? So how do we get this? How do you get this? All right, so if we divide this negative sign, let's say we divide this negative sign. Okay, let's divide this negative sign. And 21x plus 5, the absolute value of that, is going to be something something negative 47. And since when we divide or multiply by a negative number, you have to switch the sign. It'll be less than negative 47. So how do we get this no solution? So if you can tell me, this looks normal, right? Kind of. We have the absolute value, it's less than something, right? We can go on with it, right? But that's not the case. It is no solution, right? It's no solution. So who can tell us why it's no solution? All right, so let's see. All right, William, why is it no solution?
So it's no solution because the absolute value of something has to be positive, so it cannot be less than a negative number.
Great, great. So the absolute value of something must be positive, right? Therefore, okay, therefore, so it cannot be less than or equal to negative 47, right? If you think about it, if you put any number in there, it's always going to be positive, right? No matter if you put a negative number, you put a positive number, it's always going to be positive. So how it's going to be less than negative 47? That's not possible, right? So therefore, it is no solution. All right. So number 3. All right. So post your answers for this one. All right. So let's see our answers here. 2 to 10 included. Okay. And Elaine also says 2 to 10. And Hugo also says 2 to 10. All right. Very good. Very good. Oh, you're still kind of confused. The brackets and parentheses. So for the brackets, that means, let's say you have a square bracket with a 2, right? And that means the 2 is included. Let's say it's less than or equal to, right? If you have the parentheses, then it means it's not included. Let's say the regular parentheses is on 10, right? That means 10 is not included, right? All right, very good. So I think everybody got 2 to 10. All right, so let's find someone else to help us with this. And so who can do this? How about, let's see, Aiden. Can you help us with this? How are we going to do this? If you want to help us with this, you can unmute yourself, and or you can type in the chat how we do this, right? All right, let's see what this is. Okay, so if there's infinity signs, it would have to be parentheses. That's correct, right? If there's infinity signs, it would have to be parentheses because infinity cannot be included, right? Infinity cannot be included because it's infinity, right? Can't really, not very tangible, right? So it cannot be included. All right, so let's do this problem. All right, so let's do this. Divide everything by 19, right? 76 divided by 19 is going to be 4, right? And since its absolute value of x minus 6 is less than something, then it's going to be turned into this. It's going to be turned into an and compound inequality. Like that. And therefore, if we move the 6 to both sides, then we're going to have this. No, not wrong side. Like that. Right? And it indeed is 2 to 10. All right, so now if you graph it, and inequalities, remember, are between 2 points. All right, so Elaine, since you still don't understand, still kind of confused on, the parentheses and brackets, I'm gonna have you help us with this one. All right, so this is 2 and 10, right? So let's say this 2, right? Is it included or not, right? Elaine, if you can unmute yourself or you can type in the chat, right? This 2, it's included, right? If it's included, right? So we're gonna have what? A closed circle on it, right? A closed circle. Do you understand? Yes, open circle and connected. Okay, open circles are for the points that are not included. The closed circles are for the less than or equal to, because it can be equal, it can be included, right? If it's strictly between 2 and 10, then it's not included. But if x is greater than or equal to 2 and less than or equal to 10, then they can be included because it can be equal to 2 and 10. So we're going to have this. See, the parentheses and the brackets are the same exact concept. If you have less than or equal to with the 10, then the 10 has a square bracket around it. It can be included. But if, let's say, we change this to, let's say, just strictly less, right? Then 2 cannot be included because x is strictly greater than 2. So then we'd have to do this. Right? Do you understand? Quite simple concept. All right, very good, very good. Okay, so now let's go on. So the definition of an inequality, right? So we're going back to review our inequalities. All right, so let's see. Okay. All right. So let's see. Inequalities. The definition of an inequality is a relation that makes a non-equal comparison between two numbers or mathematical expressions. Now we have four inequality signs, right? So that's the less than, the greater than, the less than or equal to, the greater than or equal to. All right. And assuming our numbers over here. Right, so A is less than, A is greater than, A is less than or equal to, and A is greater than or equal to, right? All right, so now let's continue on how to solve inequalities, right? So who remembers two main points on, actually everybody brainstorm some main points on the inequality.
The absolute, just normal, and compound inequalities.
Right? There are different types of inequalities. There are different types. All right, so that's notable. All right, so different types of inequalities. Right? We have simple. We have compound, and we have absolute. All right, so those are the three values. Absolute value. Those are the three types of inequalities that we've learned. All right, so very good. I think that was Hugo, right? That was Hugo. All right, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's see. Who else has some ideas, right? So everybody in the chat, what are some key points to solving inequalities? Some key points, right? So you can tell us some key points on how to solve inequalities. And so everybody type in the chat some key points. What are things that you need to note when you're solving inequalities? How is it different from solving inequalities? I mean, how is it different from solving equations, right? Right. So some main ideas, right? All right. Very good. It is similar. Right? Similar to solving equations. How? We use inverse operations, right? Inverse operations. Right? Inverse operations. So use inverse operations, right? And yes, if you multiply by negative, you flip the sign. Very good, very good. You flip the sign when you multiply or divide, right? By a negative number. Okay, so let's look at this. So when dividing or multiplying by a negative, right? You have to flip the sign. All right, so some examples, right? So less than turns into greater than, and less than or equal to turns into greater than or equal to. So they're opposites. They're opposites, right? All right, so those are some key points of solving inequalities. So now let's go on to graphing inequalities. Now let's go on to graphing inequalities. Graphing inequalities. So basically, it's going to be from one point to the other, right? So when you graph inequalities, and this is just simple inequalities, right? Simple. What does it look like, right? It branches off from one point. All right, so let's look at this example, right? X is less than 3. All right, what is that point? It's going to be 3. What is that point? Right, it's going to be 3. And of course, it's going to be closed, right? Closed. And since it's less than 3, it's going to branch off like this, right? So it's quite easy, right? It's quite easy to do these simple equations, inequalities, simple inequalities, right? And then we have some key points as well, right? So of course we have our types of circles. Types of circles. So we have the open circle, which means it is not included. We have the closed circle, which means it is included. Now, if I change the sign to just strictly less than, then this circle would have to turn into the not included. This one, the open circle, right? So there's a difference. There's a difference. Let's go over interval notation, right? Interval notation is, the definition of it is an interval is a set of real numbers that contains all real numbers lying between any two numbers of a set. In an interval, right? We have examples, right? So interval has to have two numbers, right? Two numbers can be infinity, right? So we see that you can have like infinity to -3, right? And then we can have like 4 to infinity, right? But also we can have it between two real numbers, right? Like this, 2 and 7, 2 to 7, right? Of course, we have also the types of brackets. So we have the types of parentheses, right? So the regular parentheses is not included. We also have the square brackets, which means they are included. And so just like the types of circles, you need to pay attention to whether it's not included or included. All right, so are there any questions? All right, no questions? Very good. Let's go to the compound inequalities. Basically, a conjunction of two individual inequalities joined by and or, right? So we may have x is less than 5 and greater than 2. This is an and. We have or, maybe we have x is less than -5 or x is greater than 10. Right, so for the and inequalities, you can combine them to a compound, right? This compound inequality, you can combine them, right? Look at this. Okay. But for the or inequalities, you cannot combine. Okay, there we go. Okay, so you cannot combine. Why? Because if x is less than -5 and it's greater than 10, it doesn't make sense anymore, right? It doesn't make sense. It's like less than -5, greater than 10, then it can't be between -5 and 10, right? Because it's branching off. Now let's look at some graphs, right? So the graphs of inequalities, right? We have the and, if or, right? So the and inequalities are going to be between 2 points. So we have A and we have B. It's going to be between these 2 points. And or, it's going to be branching off. So we have A and B and branching off like this, right? For the interval notation, and is going to be like this. And it's going to be from A to B. For the or, it's going to be from -infinity to A union B to infinity, like that, right? So now let's look at absolute value, right? So the definition basically is just an inequality with an absolute value sign. Very simple. Very simple. If you look at absolute value, right, it just needs to be an absolute value sign. I'll just say it's like 3x, so value is 3x over 2 plus 4, right? It's going to be greater than 3, right? That's an absolute value inequality. Just has to be absolute value sign. Okay, and solving absolute value, we need to know the definition of an absolute value, right? So what is the definition of an absolute value sign? Right, so if we
This is from zero. That's a geometric definition, I think.
that's
And
a geometric definition. What about the algebraic definition?
absolute value x is greater than let's see. No, it's no wait. Yeah, it's greater than negative whatever, and absolute value x can also be less than whatever. Wait, no, wait, whatever.
Okay, so does anybody else have some ideas? All right, let's see. Okay, William. Very good, very good.
So basically, the absolute value is the distance from 0 to x. Yeah, so that just means so that just means x, the absolute value of x has to be a positive number.
Okay. So what does anybody recall the algebraic definition? Right. So what is the absolute value of x when it's less than 0? It's going to be negative x, right? X is the absolute value of x is going to be equal to x when x is greater than 0, positive. And we're going to use this to solve. So you have 4 cases. Who can tell me what case 1 is? Does anybody know what case 1 is? Just name a case. Name a case. Just you can blurt it out if you want.
So case 1 is when the absolute value of x is less than a positive number.
Very good. Very good. Okay, with A is positive. All right. And what does this turn into? This turns into an and. Turns into an and inequality. What about case 2?
So case 2 is when the absolute value of x is greater than a positive number.
Greater than a positive number with A is positive. All right. This turns into an or inequality. Case 3. Right, absolute value of x is less than A is negative. Turns into no solution. Case 4, absolute value of x is greater than A is negative. All real solutions. Right? So if you look at the absolute value inequalities, for case 1, case 1 going to turn into an and inequality, right? So it's going to be between 2 points again, right? For case 2, right? That's going to be an or inequality. So it's going to be branching out like this. And of course, case 3 and case 4 cannot have graphs. Right? One is no solution, one is negative infinity to infinity, so you can't really graph that. Right? So does everybody understand how we do this? Right, very good, very good. Right. So now let's go to our practice problems. Right. So everybody, give everybody some time to do the practice problems. Right. I'll go over the problems in a few moments. All right. Let's see. We have, so we are quite evenly split here. We have x is less than or equal to 2, and then we have x is less than or equal to 6. All right, very good. So let's see which one is correct. So if we do this right here, we have to multiply everything by 3, right? So 3x plus 2x is less than or equal to 10. So then we actually, sorry. And so 5x is less than or equal to 30, and x will be less than or equal to 6. Right? So if you put that in interval notation, it's going to be like this. Right? All right, very good. Next problem. All right, so let's see. We have 7, 8 to infinity. All right, very good. Let's see. That's the correct answer. Okay, so multiply everything by 3. All right, that is correct. And we put it into interval notation like that. All right, good. Okay, next problem. This is a compound inequality. This is an and inequality. So think about that. How are you going to answer, right? All right, look at this. You have negative 18 to 17. Then we have negative 13, negative 11 to 13. Okay, so looks like almost everybody got negative 18 to 17. So let's look at this. We're going to do this. All right, so let's multiply everything by 5 first. Right? And then, sorry, that's an 80. All right, then you add 8 to everything. Okay, add 8 to everything. You can see that it is indeed negative 18 to 17. So it's like this. If you graph it, it's going to be like this. No, open circle, open circle. All right, very good. Let's go to number 4. All right. Hugo says no solution. Kaylee says no solution. Okay, so let's look at this. No solution. How do you do this? Right, so if you multiply everything by 20, right, get x plus 8 less than negative 40. So how are we going to do this? The absolute value cannot be less than a negative number, so therefore it is no solution. Great job. All right, so pay attention to this. Cannot be less than a negative number. All right, number 5. Let's do number 5. This one has a solution. All right. So negative 72 to 72. Right, so let's see. So this is less than 36, right? And we have 44. Okay, and this is an and inequality. Therefore, it is 72 to 72, but it's not included, right? So I do not want to see any square brackets. Right, for regular parentheses. All right, that concludes the end of our class. All right, so thank you everybody for attending. And I'll see you next time. Next time we'll be learning about functions probably. All right.
Bye. Thank you. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.